And Rubenstein this Saturday really did put the sour in sourdough Saturday, did it not?
Not if you're paying attention to the Midwest football that I'm paying attention to. The Northwestern Cardiac Cats.
Did they win? They won, didn't they?
They won in overtime. Shout out Ben Bryant. And I think it's Bryce Kurtz. Over 200 yards receiving.
Amazing.
Oh, just clawing back against Minnesota. I don't know if that's your headliner, but I watched that recently and couldn't. Well, Minnesota settled for a field goal in overtime. And there was a nice throwback wide open pass to open up their overtime period, Northwestern's.
Here I am.
And they get the dub.
Here I am feeling all defeated.
Mm-hmm.
And like I lost my best friend.
Yeah.
Morally broken after Notre Dame's loss at home, which we will, I'm sure, talk about and lead the show with because we have to.
Yeah.
But at least we didn't lose to Northwestern. Sorry, Minnesota.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. This is the start of a new era. I'm going to stop talking about Northwestern right now. Bask in the glory, Cats fans. Okay. It is week 4. It is not in the books because we're recording this at midnight Eastern.
Correct.
And so there is some West Coast action. ASU, I don't know what the current score is, but they are trailing USC at this moment. Cal is trailing Washington. Is there anything else happening Mountain West wise? Anything along those lines?
We've got a couple games going on. We'll update them as we go through.
Yes.
We appreciate everybody who is out there on YouTube watching this live. We appreciate those of you who are downloading and listening to this in audio form at home. Man, we have a lot to discuss on this episode.
There's a lot.
We have a lot to discuss on this episode. If you haven't already done so, please hit subscribe wherever you can, whether it's on the podcast app, whether it's on the YouTube channel. All that stuff helps us. Verballers.com. I don't need to do that spiel. You know what verballers.com is. It's where we do all the bonus stuff, ad-free episodes, and the like. Why don't we just jump in headliners, man? Ohio State 17, Notre Dame 14.
Yes.
This was a rock fight for most of the way. This was a rock fight. This was two defenses that were doing a really good job curtailing the opposing offense. This was what felt like at times two offenses that were afraid to take too big of a risk. And it did jump up and nip both of them at various points throughout the course of the game. We saw both teams struggle with some calls on fourth down and short yardage. Notre Dame struggled early on when they had some long drives and opportunities, perhaps put points on the board. Maybe it didn't have to come down to that final series in the manner that it ended up doing. This was a really good college football game. It was lower scoring than I think you and I had both predicted. Clearly, the Vegas odds makers had it correct.
Yep.
Being so, the point spread was 3.5 points. How much of this did you watch? I could talk about this game for an hour and a half. I'm not gonna.
Here's what I want from you.
Do that.
Can I make a request? Can I?
Sure.
Can I turn you into the? Can I go into the salt and pepper diner and put money in the Thai jukebox and just decide what I want to hear? I want to know your feelings. I don't want to know, I think a lot of people watch this game. If you didn't watch the game, maybe you watched highlights. Obviously, you saw it was low-scoring affair. Obviously, you knew going in that both of these teams had defenses and different types of quarterback questions because Sam Hartman has been performing at a higher level, but against, I don't know, arguably worse opponents than Kyle McCord. And so as somebody emotionally invested in this game, obviously, Ohio State was able to take advantage of 10 very enthusiastic Notre Dame defensive players on the field those last two plays.
Last two plays. Incredible.
10 players. And Marcus Freeman said afterwards that he was worried about sending a player on late for fear of a penalty. Okay. So I want to know your emotions. Ohio State fans are obviously happy. Notre Dame fans are obviously crushed. Where did Notre Dame go wrong in this game with chances to put it away? Where would you lay the blame?
Look, I mean, they had opportunities early where they could have put points on the board, and they weren't able to convert. The same could be
conservative play calling.
I think partially conservative play calling. Yeah. Okay. I mean, you may recall when we did our preview, one of the things that I called out is a little bit of what happened in that NC State game where the running game wasn't working. The deeper they got into the game, in that case, after the weather delay, They came back out. The running game worked. That opened up the pass.
Yeah.
This game wasn't not like that. It didn't have the exact same tenor. It took a little bit longer for Notre Dame's run game to kick in. But once it started kicking in the second half, they were able to play that bully ball, and it started opening up passes. I was talking to Mama H on the phone. I was like, watch, they're going to start throwing passes to the guy in the slot. They're going to start throwing passes over the middle of the field. That stuff is going to be open because they're having a lot of success running the football with a lot of the inside zone and the duo stuff that, you can go read about that online if you want to. But a lot of that stuff tends to build on itself and ultimately lead you down the pathway of being able to convert some pass plays. It took a while for that to get going. And in the early part of the game, it just, they weren't able to run the football in the manner that they did. I think they were afraid to take some chances to really stretch the field with Sam Hartman. I thought he was very composed and did a good job, but the play calling early on was fairly conservative. Where did they go wrong?
Yeah. Sidebar, real quick. What a head of hair on Sam Hartman.
Best since Bob Diaco.
He's sitting over there looking like Al Pacino in Serpico in the early 70s.
Unbelievable head of hair.
And no sweat. No sweat.
None.
Maybe he should have sweated a little bit more.
He doesn't even need a helmet with hair like that.
Yeah. Continue.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
But what I think ultimately brought them down is the fact that Ohio State's really good. Credit where it's due. This wasn't Notre Dame so much giving it away as it was Ohio State jumping out to a lead, giving it back. But then when push came to shove, Kyle McCord, who at spots in this game was shaky.
Yeah.
Was shaky.
Hesitant. Yeah.
Hesitance, probably a better word. But on that big last series, was able to get the job done, was able to find Emeka Egbuka, was able to make some big throws. He is a first-time starting quarterback. He maybe does not have the sparks coming off him in the same manner as CJ Stroud. Right. But at the end of the day, he was able to get the job done. It's really hard to cover those guys. It doesn't matter if you're Notre Dame, doesn't matter if you're Michigan or Penn State. They're going to have their opportunities later in the year. So where did Notre Dame go wrong? They went wrong, I think, at the very end, obviously, with having 10 men on the field for each of the last two plays, which is not good.
Yeah,
but ultimately,
there, it was Marvin Harrison, right, who caught the ball at the goal line? Marvin Harrison Jr., or was it Egbuka?
It was Emeka Egbuka who caught it. Yeah, take him down the goal line. Ultimately, Notre Dame, I think, goes wrong by not knowing what to do on defense to solve this Ohio State offense. It may not be as potent an offense as we've seen in recent years, but there's always the threat of Trey Henderson. You've obviously got three guys out wide, and you want to throw the tight end in the mix as well. You've got 4 or 5 guys that you have to worry about and cover at all times. And I just don't know if Notre Dame has the manpower, the resources in the secondary. It's a good secondary. It's not that good. And I don't know how many secondaries around college football are going to be good enough to contend with those guys. That's where Notre Dame went wrong. They couldn't stop it when they had to.
Okay.
They couldn't stop it when they had to.
They keep Ohio State under 20. They keep the quarterback under 7 yards per attempt. Trey Henderson has that long run, but otherwise is held relatively quiet. Chip Trayanum doesn't do anything until the game-sealing touchdown at the end of the game. Like, spotting a team 17, I don't think it's the defense. Maybe it's like a coaching thing. Like, does this say anything about Marcus Freeman as a coach that like it's disorganized on the sideline, getting players in there, getting your defense set in these high leverage moments?
No, I mean, look,
you're supposed to score 20 points if you're a good team.
Look, and again, that's my point with the defense is that it's not even so much a problem. It's just everybody's going to have that problem against Ohio State. I would have liked to have seen more pressure on Kyle McCord. That was something I said in the preview. And they started getting some pressure late, but the deeper they got into this thing, the harder it was to figure out, like, all right, do we bring the pressure now? Do we drop back? They had that dilemma. Al Golden had to try and solve that one. And, obviously they couldn't do it. On the offensive side, you mentioned some of the coaching. I mean, Marcus Freeman came out after halftime and said he wanted to be aggressive and go for it on every 4th and 1. And then when they had the opportunity, he called the most conservative play possible on 4th and 1. So there was a little bit of that going on. I think both teams were trying to avoid the big mistake.
It went both ways. Ryan Day in Ohio State had some pretty shaky short yardage moments as well. Yeah,
it cut both ways. But for the one that counted, Ryan Day runs to the spot on the field where Notre Dame is not lined up properly. They're down a guy because of disorganization, and they're able to pound it in. Play was reviewed, goes for a touchdown. Ohio State wins 17-14. So big road win. Kyle McCord, kudos to him for making some big throws down the stretch. Again, hesitant is probably the right word for it. He's definitely got some work to do, but it is helpful when you've got those guys out wide. It is helpful when you still got a really good defense. Look, the Ohio State defense deserves a lot of credit too. We've talked about the Notre Dame offense, the Notre Dame defense, and the Ohio State offense, but the Ohio State defense, as I think you said on the preview, has been low-key really freaking good. Kind of the quiet assassin.
Oh, man, JT Tuamalo, like centimeters away from a crazy game-changing interception.
Yeah. Yeah. So, look, as I laid on my carpet in my basement and rain blows upon it after this game, I thought I would kind of have all these emotions worked out by the time we had to go live, but I don't. I'm still feeling this. I realize people feel the need to say sorry. A lot of people say sorry on Twitter. Don't say sorry. Don't say sorry. That doesn't help. Maybe that's why you're saying, don't say sorry. It doesn't help. It's a hurtful loss.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it was close. I don't think it knocks it out of any national conversation, provided Ohio State doesn't end up being a disaster.
Right.
But it was a good win for them on the road, and especially for Kyle McCord. And did you see Ryan Day's rant?
No. At what point?
Ryan Day ranted. Ryan Day went off.
What did he say?
In his post-game comments on 86-year-old Lou Holtz.
Great. I'm always in favor of that.
Because
we can all come together. Yeah.
Lou Holtz made a comment about, he lost to Bama and Georgia and Michigan twice. And anybody who beats him because they're more physical. And he thought Notre Dame was more physical. Ryan Day really took that one to heart. He was emotional after the game. So.
The only takeaway I had from this game, we got a lot of action to get to, was you could tell Notre Dame was locked in and focused on keeping those dangerous receivers corralled in front of them, everything like that, and did a mostly sensational job of limiting the pass game from Ohio State. When you look at Ohio State, you're like, who kept Jim Knowles up at night on this Notre Dame? Like you were saying, you were falling in love with a freshman running back, but like you look out wide and there's like good players, but who was keeping Jim Knowles up at night?
Well,
that was the issue to me. These types of games, this is a winter wonder game, and I didn't see it from Notre Dame.
Yeah, you didn't have those gravitational guys out wide the way that you do with Igbuka and obviously Marvin Harrison. Thankfully, Marvin Harrison's ankle is okay. It seems like he's all right. He had it rolled up on, and it was kind of a scary moment. He went to the tent for a bit, but 17-14, the other big game happened earlier in the day, and this was an overtime thriller between Florida State and Clemson. Florida State ends up winning this one 31-24 in overtime. Florida State did not lead until they scored that touchdown in overtime. A really nice throw from Jordan Travis to Keon Coleman on the first series in overtime. This is a hell of a game. I thought the Clemson offense looked really good, comparatively speaking. Had its moments, of course, but the combination of being a little bit more vertical, the combination of, I thought, Cade Klubnik looking very composed for the most part. Just a few mistakes that
I didn't love his first half.
I didn't love his first half.
Early, but yeah, continue.
There were moments, but I thought just in general looked composed and still throws off his back foot a little too much, which I don't really like, but I think he's going to be really, really good, provided they keep him upright and healthy and give him time to develop. It was a few mistakes that got him. It was the sack that he didn't see coming that went for a scoop and score on the Florida State side. And obviously it was the way the game kind of ended. There was this whole subplot of Dabo Swinney had kicking issues. Dabo Swinney reaches out to last year's backup kicker, who he finds out through the grapevine is taking online classes somewhere, technically as a grad student, before he moves off to New York to take some job in the finance district. This is a real story. I'm not making this up.
Totally true. It was hammered home about 44 times during this game.
A million times. So brings him back, trots him out there, was 3 for 3 with extra points. I think maybe had a field goal before that. Has what amounts to a chip shot right down the middle and tugs it.
Yeah.
Game goes to overtime. And because of that miss, which again seemed like it was relatively close enough and not at a weird angle, that was what gave Florida State a chance to go win this thing.
Yeah,
crazy game.
Yeah, to rewind a little bit, I think the biggest thing that gave Florida State a chance to win this thing was their defensive front. Just hounding Cade Klubnik, making plays all over the place, silencing the thing that we thought we would be able to count on the most about this Clemson offense this year as they work Klubnik into his starting role, which is Will Shipley, Phil Maffa, and the rushing attack completely. I mean, both of these rushing attacks were completely suffocated by these fronts. We saw Xavier Thomas make a ton of plays for Clemson. But no, by and large, I thought the most impressive thing in this game, the specific thing, was Florida State up front on defense, because Jordan Travis was fine. Keon Coleman remains otherworldly in those huge moments. Obviously, I think he scores the game-winning touchdown in overtime.
Yeah.
And Johnny Wilson had drops. I don't know if they were all his fault, but he makes some huge plays for this offense. But yeah, nothing going for Trey Benson. I think it was Lawrence Toafili. But yeah, it was the ability of this Florida State, deeper than it's been in quite some time up front, to make plays against this Clemson offense, which, as you mentioned, led the entirety of this game. And it was a really fun back and forth. And I don't think it sort of is passing any torch in the ACC or anything like that, because it was so narrow. And as we've all come to agree, Duke is now the power in the ACC.
They are the unabated power. Yeah.
I think game day is going to
game
Durham
day.
next week.
Game day is going. And listen, the thought was not lost on me as I was watching what I thought was going to be a Notre Dame win.
Duke's not out here barely beating Clemson.
No. They beat them by 21. The thought is not lost on me, and it wasn't when I was watching the game, that game day is going to Duke next week when Notre Dame comes to town.
Mm-hmm.
And if Notre Dame wins this game, at the time they were winning the game, if Notre Dame wins this game, they're absolutely losing that game to Duke.
Yeah.
They're losing that game on the road to Mike Elko with game day in town. It's still a letdown opportunity. And we could talk about that when we do the Wednesday preview. But back to this one, I give credit.
Again,
go ahead.
I just because we brought up Duke, congratulations to Riley Leonard's bank account via wire transfer from Tuscaloosa next year. Just pre-congratulations to Riley Leonard on being flushed with cash next year. All right. Speaking of, continue.
Yeah, I mean, Florida State couldn't run in this game.
No.
And I thought that was notable. And you heard it. If you watched the broadcast, they were wise to mention it. But Jordan Travis was nicked up. He was kind of holding his arm. And it was clear that he was feeling the effects of last week's game.
Yeah, for sure.
And the comments that were made in the broadcast were basically like, we can't put this all on him. They can't put this all on him. It's too much to ask given his state. And they did, and he delivered. He seemed composed down the stretch against what I think is a really, really good defense still in Clemson. And obviously was able to deliver to his big wideouts. We tweet it every week that they've got a basketball team playing wide receiver. And it's true. They're big, strong, physical receivers, and they're tough to cover. Now, Clemson was good enough to show us some stuff here in this one. And if a few things go their way, this is going to have a different outcome. So Florida State's beatable. And if you look down the stretch for Florida State, it's going to take them a few weeks now before we get to what I think is the real meat of this schedule. But the last 6 weeks of this thing are Duke. They've got Wake Forest. They've got Pitt. They've also got Miami and Florida in that span. It's going to get spicy the last couple weeks of the season for Florida State. And they're going to have to work out why they weren't able to do more on the ground. The only other thing that I did want to call out on the Clemson side is Big Bill Shipley, baby.
Big Bill?
Big Bill's going to make a lot of money in the NFL someday. Someone's going to pick him in the NFL. Everyone's going to pick him for their fantasy teams because he's going to be the next Christian McCaffrey. He is a strong runner, and he is on a team that, even though Clemson gets a lot of love and they're very much in the national spotlight, I still feel like Will Shipley is not getting his due. I think he is an awesome player. I don't know if his numbers rise to the level of a dude alert at the end. You're the judge of that.
Right.
But I was just really impressed by some of the hard yards he was able to get for Clemson in some key spots.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, they couldn't get it going consistently, but certainly his ability and talent is unimpeachable at this point. He's terrific.
Where should we go next?
You tell me. We had a ranked matchup between Oregon and Colorado. We had a ranked matchup between Oregon State, Washington State. I assume Iowa State, Oklahoma State, both ranked. Yes, no. Where do you want to go?
Let's talk about Oregon, Colorado.
Okay.
42-6, 3 points away from hitting my Bad News Buffaloes parlay.
Sorry about that.
3 points. 3 points. If your Ducks would have played a little better on offense.
Oh, well, all they really needed to do was what did they? Okay, no, they had a missed 2 point, but then they got a 2 point. So I guess they made up for it there. But yeah,
They
you
made
needed
up
the
for
odd
it. And
points.
then the two parts of the bet that did not hit were Oregon going over 44.5 points, which a field goal down the
Right.
stretch.
They took their, they
And
pulled bow. Yeah.
and an odd number of total points, which the field goal would have gotten me. But if they hadn't blocked an extra point after Colorado's touchdown, there would have been no chance of the bet. None.
Right.
So I at least give them credit for that. We had a chance down the stretch. It didn't hit, but Oregon won.
Yes.
In very, very resounding fashion. This game was over pretty much before it started. Dan Lanning with a fiery pregame speech telling his team, quote, "They're fighting for clicks. We're fighting for wins." That is a zinger, Dan. That is why you paid the man his money right there, for zingers like that.
Yeah. And look, I don't think it's fully fair. Obviously, they're trying to bring attention to a long dormant program to get the attention of recruits so they can start stacking wins in a way that they haven't been able to do in a long time. It's the strategy to appeal to people to improve their program. So I get where Lanning is coming from as well, that Colorado has received an undue amount of attention for accomplishing not all that much under Deion Sanders, other than generating a lot of cameras and flashbulbs and such. So, yes, you're right. This game was over really quickly. It was over quickly because it became very clear right away that Colorado could not block Oregon up front, that Shedeur Sanders was going to have to make a ton of, split second, incredible, miraculous A+ decisions if they had a chance to win this game. And as it turns out, even the Oregon secondary was smothering a Colorado receiving core that was, of course, without Travis Hunter, who suffered a hit. We hope he comes back just very quickly. Obviously, he is one of the most talented players in the country. And it was just clear on both sides of the ball, Colorado did not belong in the Willamette Valley, let alone Autzen Stadium. These were two teams that are in different layers of their developmental cycle. And Oregon in year 2 under Dan Lanning, with the way that he's recruited, with the way that Oregon has won a ton of games, with the way Bo Nix has established himself as a Heisman candidate. And not that Shedeur Sanders isn't and can't be, but Bo Nix is, I think the stat, he's the most experienced quarterback in college football. And so it was going to take so much from this Colorado offensive line and defensive front, and they just don't have the guys. And so Oregon ran it down their throat. They got into a rhythm passing. Bo Nix was just crazy accurate, other than basically one bad throw that he threw for an interception. And they leaned on the running game. They leaned on just a wave of defensive linemen coming in and out of the game to just completely harass and harangue Colorado's offense. And so, yes, this was over quite quickly. It was, if the starters were in all, it would have been 77-3 or something like that. So 42-6 is your final. And Oregon, I think, has Stanford next before they take on Washington.
That's going to
there's a bye in there as well. So I think it's mid-October is when their next truly big matchup happens.
522 yards for Oregon, just 199 for Colorado. To your point, both teams still had a ton of penalties.
Yes.
It did not play much a factor in the final result. Maybe played some factor in my parlay. I don't know. But that is something that both teams are going to need to clean up the deeper they get into the season, particularly Oregon, because I think we both expect Oregon's going to have a lot to play for. And on the Oregon side, I know you said they harassed and harangued, good word.
Thank you.
Shedeur Sanders, 7 sacks on the day for this Oregon defense.
They were all over the place. Yeah. There were some heavy-footed dudes out there for Colorado. And I think the future is still bright. And it was, I don't know if you caught this. I don't know. You were probably still watching this game because of your 5-part parlay. Just Colorado got their teeth kicked in, and they were spending all of the time on the Colorado sideline. Like, how impressive a job have they done? Like, they're losing by 36 points right now. They were never in this game for a second, and we're gushing over this team. Okay. All right. If that's you, that's a decision. But that felt a little bit odd to me, but maybe I'm too close.
Speaking of playing for clicks.
Yeah.
Speaking of paying for clicks, yeah.
Jesse Palmer's tongue was out like the cartoon wolf. He was so excited to compliment Deion Sanders and the absolute rocking that Colorado got in Autzen Stadium.
It was a Jesse Palmer heavy episode of college football, between commercials for the Golden Bachelor, Bachelor in Paradise, and then the cartoon wolf move with the Colorado compliments. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Where are we going next?
Alabama 24, Ole Miss 10.
I watched this game.
Yeah.
I saw plays from Jalen Milroe where I thought to myself, I don't know if Nick Saban's going to sleep until January or March or something. And then I saw plays from Jalen Milroe. I was like, they started Tyler Buckner over this guy?
Yeah.
It was a tale of two Jalen Milroes. The Alabama defense was obviously great. It seemed like the offensive line for Alabama took steps forward. I don't know if that's a product of, not playing the Texas front or that dangerous USF front, but it was a nice bounce back half, at least the second half for Alabama after some struggles recently.
Yeah. Bama blocked a punt in the second quarter and followed it up with a bad snap, Jalen Milroe being chased around and running out of bounds, and then getting sacked.
Yeah.
And them having to settle for a field goal. And I saw that, and I thought the same thing as you. Like, oh, my God, Nick Saban is going to be furious. And then there was also a sequence where Jalen Milroe, off his back foot, decided he was just going to wing it to the front corner of the end zone into double coverage. It was not a good decision. It was somewhat reminiscent of the interception we saw late in the game against Texas.
Yeah.
Where it was just he didn't see the defender creeping over the middle, and he threw it right to him.
Yes.
But then there were other moments, of course, as you said, where it's like, really, they're going to start Ty Simpson? They're going to start Tyler Buckner over this guy? What I'm still waiting to see from Jalen Milroe that we did not see. I know he's mobile. We haven't seen Tommy Rees really put him on the run yet.
Intentionally. Yeah.
Intentionally. We haven't seen them do that. And that was something he did a lot of at Notre Dame, perhaps out of necessity. He did it with Drew Pine. There's no reason he can't do it with a guy like Jalen Milroe, who everybody told me in the preseason has elite NFL caliber speed. I would love to see that. And I suspect we're going to have to see more of that if we keep having these brain farts on the passing side. But all things considered, we did see some moments from him that I thought were very encouraging. On the Alabama defensive side, Ole Miss held to just 3 points after the first quarter. Got some messages from folks asking if Zombie Alabama is back. I don't think we're at Zombie Alabama yet.
And you look at their schedule, and there's nothing crazy. Like LSU was probably really good, but they snuck by Arkansas tonight by 3. So there's nothing crazy. The problem is, and the floor will be yours, I promise, in like 4 seconds, is on every single snap, it seems like running through Jalen Milroe's head is, what if this went for 77 yards? What if this just went for 77? You're like, take the 9! Jalen, take the 9, please! And that happens a little bit too much still. But
yeah, a little Anthony Calandria in him.
Yeah.
24-10, a nice home win for Alabama.
Yeah, Quinshon Judkins does play, isn't a huge factor, but he was I think questionable coming into this game, so good to see him out there.
Let's stay in the SEC. We had some other games here that I want to rattle off. You can tell me what jumped out to you. We had A&M 27-10 over Auburn. LSU 34-31 over Arkansas in the battle for the Golden Boot. Missouri hanging on against Memphis 34-27. We had South Carolina, my lock of the week, one of the only picks I got right. 37-30 over Mississippi State. By the way, Will Rogers, where's my sound here? 487 passing.
Oh,
if I got that number, 487 passing in a losing effort.
That's many yards.
That's better than they usually do.
Mm-hmm.
We had Georgia 49-21 over UAB. Tennessee big over UTSA 45-14. I should have made that one of my locks too. I knew that they were going to crush UTSA. We had Kentucky 45-28 over Vandy, and Florida very much not covering their 28-point spread, winning 22-7 over Charlotte. Any of those games stand out to you, Dan?
Connor Wegman gets hurt, and Texas A&M looked kind of stilted and not incredibly dynamic on offense early on. Got it going later. Max Johnson comes in, and he was good. Still some questions to me about Texas A&M's offensive line. Auburn just sort of looks like a team that has to field a team and play out the season, but they're not ready to compete. No. And that became very clear. Despite your pick for Auburn.
Well, look, they were able to run the ball to some extent. This was not a great offensive effort. They only had 200 yards. Peyton Thorne threw for 44 yards in this game. Yeah. Peyton Thorne did not play well. He did not play well. And you're right. Their clearly still in the oven. They are sourdough Saturday. They require a bit of a longer bake. There might even be something wrong with the dough. It's going to take a while to get the project up and running down there at Auburn. However, that being said, I thought there were opportunities here. And especially when Connor Wegman went down, it was close for at least part of this game. But you're right. Max Johnson came in. He looked good, gave him a spark, threw 2 touchdowns, including one to his brother. That was like announcer porn. Whenever they have the brother thing going on, like even if they're not playing in the same game, whenever they can reference family members that people would know, they love doing that. So it was a touchdown pass from Max Johnson to Jake Johnson. And they also added, just for the kicker, that Brad Johnson was in attendance for the game. So we got all 3.
You have to. You have to. Multiple Johnsons, Ty. He said, without trying to make it go down a path. Continue.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention, I don't think you mentioned Kentucky, but 2 pick sixes for Maxwell Hairston as Kentucky wins 45-28.
That'll do.
Over Vanderbilt. This one was never really close. If you look at the final score, it might appear as such, but Kentucky had him at arm's length the whole way. A nice game for Ray Davis, the transfer running back who came over from Vanderbilt. I am still waiting for that breakout performance from Devin Leary, though. He had 2 picks today. We haven't seen it yet. And I was delirious for Devin Leary. I wanted him before I wanted Sam Hartman at Notre Dame. And maybe the Liam Cohen thing is not taking flight as quickly as it did with Will Levis.
They're winning games.
But they're winning games. They're winning games. They're winning games. They're winning games.
Figuring it out.
I do think that the SEC East is perhaps a little bit more interesting than we thought. Kentucky's undefeated. Florida's playing better. Mizzou is playing pretty well. I don't know. It's more interesting than I thought at the start of the year. And that's not to say any of them are beating Georgia or even Tennessee. But hey, it's interesting.
It's fun. No, on that note, another really impressive game from Brady Cook as I scrub through it. Luther Burden is a cheat code. He's ridiculous and fun and everything nice about college football.
10 for 170 or something?
10 for 177. Wow. I didn't watch much of LSU and Arkansas. I saw the back and forth. I saw some mistakes from the Arkansas offense. The big thing that stood out to me, as again, I went through this very quickly, so whatever, take it with a grain of salt. But I like Logan Diggs running the ball. Your guy, Logan Diggs, for LSU.
Boy. Yeah.
This has not been a point of strength, running back and the rushing attack for Brian Kelly's LSU program. And then Brian Thomas getting into the action through the air, which is nice that it's not all Malik Neighbors, big receiver for LSU. And so I think they're coming along. I need to go back and watch why exactly this game was a 34-31 game, but in watching the end, nice win for LSU.
Yeah. Nice win. Logan Diggs would have been the 6th running back for Notre Dame. Maybe not 6th on the depth chart, but doing well. Did well today for LSU.
Didn't watch any Georgia UAB. Trent Dilfer. Sorry, I didn't.
Damn. All right, let's go over to the Big Ten, Dan. Let's talk about the Big Ten.
Let's.
The marquee game that we highlighted as one of our big dogs. I won't play the sound. I've been asked not to.
Really? It's disturbing puppies?
It's disturbing puppies.
Yeah.
That's bad. Yeah.
Okay. Big dog.
31-0. Penn State blanks Iowa. Point number 1. This is going to bring the average down for Brian.
Yeah, I would say so.
This is going to bring I have not done the math. I have not done it on the back of a napkin or on a calculator or anywhere else. Maybe somebody in our live chat here can give me a quick number crunch and let me know where
at the
things
creamery.
Stand. Yeah, let me know where things stand on this road, this drive to 25 points per game.
Mm-hmm.
It was a rainy night. It's been horrible weather-wise up here. We're dealing with the effects of Tropical Storm Ophelia, so there's rain and wind and it's cold, and I can only imagine how miserable it was to be in the stands. But this Iowa offense is unserious.
Oh, good word, Ty.
It is it's your word.
I know.
It's unserious, and I'm a Penn State grad, and I was rooting like hell for Penn State in this game. I'm glad they won. I think they showed a lot. Drew Aller 4 touchdowns. Drew Aller.
Was he good? Or was he just have stats?
He was okay. He was okay. Didn't commit any big mistakes. It was not the type of game that needed him to throw for 250. He needed to throw for 166, a couple touchdowns on a short field, and hand the ball off to the running backs. And that's essentially what they did. The defense did it the rest of the way, or should I say Iowa's offense chipped in as well. This is
it was an alley-oop. Everybody's playing their part.
It's a symbiotic relationship at this point. The Iowa offense is unserious. I had a guy on Twitter tell me a couple weeks ago that I was being too hard on the Iowa offense.
Okay.
And called out the fact that in one of the recap episodes that we did not make enough mention of the fact that Cade McNamara has a bruised thigh or whatever it is.
Okay.
I'm sure he still has it. That doesn't go away. Quads take a while.
Yeah.
So
I bruised my thigh in 2014 and I still limp a little time.
That's right. Cade McNamara is a warrior out there. He plays through pain. He's notably a competitor. He went to Iowa. Everybody's very excited about it. They're getting this huge upgrade at quarterback. I happen to think Cade McNamara is okay. I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I think he was fine at Michigan. But the problem that I have with that type of comment is Cade McNamara 31 points? Is his quad worth 31 points? Is that really the reason that this thing is as bad as it is? This is an unserious offense. This was an uncompetitive offense in this game. And for as much as I rooted for Penn State, this made me angry. As a college football fan, as somebody who talks a lot of Iowa, we have Iowa people who come out to our live shows. We're all out across the country.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa people show up and they want to talk Iowa football. This is an unserious coaching staff.
It's an unserious program.
They're unserious. No, it starts with the coaching staff. And I think the administration is scared as hell because the Ferences are royalty in Iowa at this point.
Yeah.
But it is time. It is time to get past this stupid stigma of keeping these guys in place and move on. Even if the next guy does not have the resume of the Ferences, get somebody else in there because this is embarrassing. I don't care if Kirk Ferentz likes to play this style of football. You saw that like little Cheshire Cat grin that he got a couple of weeks ago,
right,
in a press conference when they asked him about it. Oh, I love that 6-4 win. What about a 31-0 loss, Kirk? How do we feel about that? It's embarrassing. And I'm mad about it. It's embarrassing to watch that.
Yeah. I agree. I don't have anything to add. I barely watched this game. I asked you for updates because I didn't want to subject my eyes to it. I was watching other games.
I mean, just how many excuses are they going to make for this guy? I don't care what he did in the past. Now is now. Yeah. It's changing, baby.
It's one. Think about all of the quarterbacks who may have developed as interesting college football quarterbacks who just made the bad decision to go to Iowa. Like maybe our guy Nate Stanley would have been incredible. I mean, he did
Spencer
have
Petras.
Really great game. Yeah. Well,
Spencer Petras.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe not Spencer Petras. I'm just saying.
Right.
It's just embarrassing. It's embarrassing at this point. You lose 31-0.
Yeah.
Can't even score a freaking point. That's embarrassing.
Yeah. Well, he's still getting his guys into the program. Kirk Ferentz, right?
No, it's only taken him 25 years, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is not intended as a shot against Iowa fans or even the Iowa players. Yeah. This is directly at the Ferences. This is a joke. It's an absolute joke. And if they're not mad, then I'll be mad for you because I don't got any connection to the program. That was brutal.
Think about
where's my sound?
It's brutal out here.
Let's go. Michigan 31, Rutgers 7. We had Maryland stomping all over Michigan State 31-9. That was your lock of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Illinois 23, FAU 17. Nebraska 28-14 over La Tech. Northwestern getting on the board. 37-34. We talked about it at the top. They win in overtime. We had Wisconsin winning 38-17 on Friday.
400 straight over Purdue. That was a nice quick start for Wisconsin, by the way. They've been a slow starting team and a nice bounce. I saw Tanner Mordecai running for touchdowns.
I saw that, yeah.
I saw, they were operating as a balanced Phil Longo offense. They were grinding out tough yards. I think Ches Malusi got hurt, which is a pretty significant bummer later on in that game. But a position of luxury with Braylon Allen being there. So hope Malusi, I don't know. I haven't seen a diagnosis there, but a really nice win for Wisconsin there. What else did you mention? Michigan?
Yeah, 31-7. So Michigan went down a long touchdown pass to Christian Dremel, 69-yard touchdown pass.
Mm-hmm.
Right out of the chute for Rutgers. Rutgers seemed like they had a little bit of bite, and then Michigan went 31 unanswered points. One was a pick six So I guess the offense scored 24 points.
Yeah, Mike Sanders still all over the place.
All over the place. All over the place.
Did you see his pick six?
It was
He was weaving in and out like he had just taken a tunnel screen. It was a terrific run.
A great run. And the Michigan defense, I think, is going to cause fits for everybody this year. But is the offense concerning at all?
Yeah, it was a nice performance. I mean, what are you going to do? It's Rutgers, and Rutgers is probably fine. They're not going to beat good teams this year, but they may surprise some decent teams. I don't know. JJ McCarthy took care of business. He spread the ball around. Blake Corum took care of business. I don't think there was much Donovan Edwards, but it was like an hour and a half game, by the way. This game was like a Greg Maddux classic. This game, I think, started at 12 and ended at like 2:30. It was great.
It's like the Notre Dame first half. The Notre Dame first half lasted like 40 minutes.
I like when games go long, when they're back and forth competitive and there's like an interesting storyline to it. But if a team is up 31-7, it's fine that you take 244 or however long this game
goes. We'll take that.
Yeah.
31-7. It feels like there's more meat on the bone for Michigan. This was Jim Harbaugh's first game back. There were some communication issues, I think, early. The deeper they got into the game, they kind of worked that stuff out. And we'll see. Look, it's a very advantageous schedule for Michigan. They've got their whole season in front of them. Truly, it comes down to November. And I know you guys joke about this all the time. People listening at home will know what we need to know about Michigan by December.
By December, we'll absolutely know what Michigan
that is. The God's honest truth. The only other one here is that Indiana went to quadruple overtime against Akron and won 29-27.
Okay. Quadruple overtime, 29-27. That okay. Nebraska, I think they started Harburg again, right? At
your
quarterback.
Boy, Double H.
They beat Louisiana Tech. I watched some of Maryland, Michigan State. Michigan State is sort of a sad situation to behold. Obviously, no fault to the players or the remaining
situation.
Coaches.
That's a dunzo situation, man.
Yeah, that game was over pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, no, it was a great comeback for Northwestern. 21 fourth quarter points to send it to OT, and they get the throwback pass. It was great.
Let's go to the Big 12.
Let's.
Oklahoma 20-6 over Cincinnati.
You're secretly down on Oklahoma a little bit, it seems.
Here's what troubles me about the Big 12.
Okay.
And I've done this math and this self-study because I'm a huge dork about this stuff. The conference that I have picked the most correctly over the last 5 to 6 years has been the Big 12. I feel like every year by the time we get about midway into the season, I understand the Big 12 better than I understand any other conference. Not in terms of all the machinations and moving pieces and where the programs are at from a health stand. Not that. I'm just talking picking games. I've always felt very comfortable with the Big 12.
Yeah.
I just feel like I have a good sense for it. I have no idea this year. I have no idea. As evidenced by my picks week in and week out, which is getting to the point of being demoralizing, Dan.
I mean, we're barely 4 weeks into the year.
I am demoralized by my picks.
Is it technically summer? Have we turned the page to fall?
Yeah, I think that yesterday. Was the 21st.
21st, 2 days ago. Okay, yeah. So we're 2 days removed from summer. It's okay to give yourself some time to figure out a conference.
But I have a segment where I'm giving people picks.
I know. And
I can't pick it. Anyway, deep breath. I'm having a really hard time with the Big 12 this year. I came out this season convinced that Cincinnati was going to be dreadful. And for the most part, they haven't been. Now, they were not good in this game.
Let's do a MAC team last week.
Let's do MAC team. I know.
6 days
I
ago.
know.
Okay.
By and large, they've been better than I expected still. This game, they were not good. The Oklahoma thing, though, is kind of, it's weird. It is weird to me. I put a call out on Twitter around middle of the afternoon asking Oklahoma folks, what do you think of this team? The overwhelming majority of people said that the defense is improved. Some said that the defense is good, which I don't agree with that, but the defense is definitely improved.
Okay.
I'll give them that. But the offense is weird. The offense is weird right now, and it's tough to figure out what Jeff Lebby is doing from game to game. It almost feels a little bit like the identity of this, the schemes, the concepts. There's not a whole lot of cohesion from one week to the next.
Right.
And that troubles a lot of Oklahoma fans. Like my thought coming out of a game like this against Cincinnati, I watched most of this game. A better quarterback than Emory Jones probably dices up Oklahoma. Even with an improved defense, which I agree it is improved, Emory Jones is missing guys who are wide open. There were guys who were wide open, getting a free release off the line. A better quarterback hits those guys. I don't know if Quinn Ewers is that better quarterback. He is better than Emory Jones, but I think
look at you firing off these takes.
A truly
better than Emory Jones.
Thank you, Dan. I know. That's what I'm here for. I'm feeling it tonight.
Yeah.
But a better quarterback who is in rhythm is good enough to hit those throws. And that's what concerns me about the Oklahoma defense. The offense, it just feels like there's more meat on the bone. I said it about Michigan. I'll say it about these guys too. It feels
What's his name, though? I mean, it's a connection, right? Andrell Anthony. There's your
there it is. It's connected
really
tissue.
Good for Oklahoma. Yeah.
He has. And he had a really good game here as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Oklahoma people would agree with this. It feels like there should be an extra gear that we have not seen yet.
Right. That's fine. It's year 2. It's a defense that is not allowing 7 bajillion yards to TCU and Texas Tech yet. So that's good. You have to take incremental improvement. Everybody's going to improve over the course of the season if they stay healthy, and I expect the same for Oklahoma. So I'm not ready to write them off. You might be right that there were available points on the board for Cincinnati, but also it's Cincinnati in a transition year. And so better to hold a team under 10 points than win this game 35-20. It's fine by me.
And one other point before we'll talk about Texas next.
Yeah.
Speaking about Dylan Gabriel, I talk about Emory Jones missing open guys. Dylan Gabriel sailed a couple passes in this game. He sailed a surefire touchdown early. He had another pass a little bit later on in like the first half that should have gone for a completion. He gets these moments where it feels like he should be better than he is. And I feel like he's worse this year than he was last year.
Wow. Okay.
So far, but it's early. Texas 38, Baylor 6.
Yeah.
Baylor, man. What's going on with Baylor?
I mean, they still don't have their starting quarterback. They can't move the ball. And Texas's defense is just going to squash teams into oblivion. Like, when you're able to get off the field like the Texas defense is, and then you have the privilege of getting the ball to Jatavian Sanders. Quinn Ewers was very good going down the field. Like, it's a balanced Texas offense. Baylor might be the worst team in the Big 12. So maybe you have to gauge the size of salt grain you're going to take it with. But this is what a good team should do. Texas took care of business, and Baylor's kind of a mess. And by kind of, I mean entirely and completely.
Baylor was really bad in this. We got people in the chat saying start the fire Aranda movement. They're without their quarterback. The defense, as my friend Peter Pope mentioned last week, had been okay, if not uninspired, which is a weird combo, but I think it fits. This game, they were overmatched, 38-6. Other games around the Big 12, we had K-State playing tight with UCF for a while and then pulling away, 44-31.
Timmy McClain, who moves around really well. And they have a tiny running back who I liked a lot. Johnny Richardson. He's fun, UCF. But yeah, Kansas State did a nice job. It wasn't fireworks for K-State, but a nice bounce back win after last week and losing to Memphis.
I told you not to buy that UCF defensive number.
I know.
You weren't into it either. I'm not telling you anything you didn't know.
No, but you felt passionately on the preview. I'm good with it.
I told you. Kansas wins 38-27 over BYU. Fairly even matchup. If you look at the numbers, if you watch this game, this was an even matchup with the exception of 3 BYU turnovers, one of which was a pick 6, but a pretty good game to watch. All things considered.
Yeah.
The battle for the Iron Skillet went to TCU 34-17. SMU moved the ball in TCU, but they didn't have a shot after halftime. After halftime, TCU kind of ran away and hid. And they probably should have had more points. They settled for field goals instead of touchdowns on 2 long drives, but I thought it was a game that went almost exactly the way you and I predicted, in that TCU is a better team and they won comfortably.
Yeah. And the big thing is TCU's defense is tightening up. They're getting after quarterbacks, and Jared Wiley is turning into a legit, top flight Big 12 pass catcher. So
Houston won 38-7 over Sam Houston.
Okay.
In the battle for the Houston Trophy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had West Virginia 20-13 over Texas Tech, and Iowa State 34 points. Is that right?
That is correct.
They scored 34 points.
What's the quarterback is Beck, right? Rocco Beck?
Rocco Beck. Somebody said we should change from Brocktober to Rocktober.
I'm great with it. He's got to do it in October.
Needs to do it. That is a prerequisite of that.
Summer was 2 days ago. And he had the connection. I scrubbed through this one quickly as well, but it's Jalen Knoll as well. So Iowa State with a random poppy offense, I am all in favor of.
If you don't know, now you know.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm here for.
I like the enthusiasm, though, Ty. I like it.
What is the deal with West Virginia and Texas Tech?
I mean, I didn't watch this game, so I can't tell you. But
Tech was favored by 6 points going into this game. And we were all high and mighty about Texas Tech before the season. I was really down on West Virginia.
Well, Tyler Shuck got hurt. I did see that.
Tyler Shuck got hurt.
Yeah.
Tyler Shuck got hurt. Okay. Almost immediately, it was Baron Morton. But I guess I was wrong about West Virginia. This is not a great team by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
And if you look at the numbers here, clearly 5 of 31 collectively on third down. This was not like an offensive juggernaut of a game by any stretch. But for as much as I have talked about the main job of the West Virginia offense to be running the ball and keeping the defense off the field, defense kind of performed tonight. Defense did its job, maybe against a backup quarterback, but they are not a catastrophe the way that I thought. And that's a credit to Neil Brown, who started the year on the hot seat, started the year before this year on the hot seat, and, has performed admirably.
Nico Marchiol, 2 picks, 3.7 yards per attempt. I will go back and watch and see if they were his fault. I will go back and watch to see what's going on with their passing attack. Winning is better than losing. Good for West Virginia.
Yep. For folks in the chat, we will get back to DJ Giddens, I promise you.
Okay.
From Kansas State, who had a bit of a game, perhaps in our Dude Alert segment. Let's go to the ACC. We had Georgia Tech, baby. Woo! Told you.
You did. All Haynes.
Yeah.
Haynes King. What's the running back's name is Haynes as well. But they turn your guy, Mitch Griffiths. I say that jokingly because you were not high on Mitch Griffiths going into the year. But he's had a pretty decent season thus far. But they go to Winston-Salem. They get a win.
Georgia Tech wins 32-16 over Wake Forest. We had Louisville all over Boston College, 56-28. Louisville had 42 points at half.
Ruins my theory that Boston College is exactly as good as all of their opponents go to.
Not in this one. In this one, they weren't.
Absolutely not.
We had Duke 41-7 over UConn. We had Miami 41-7 over Temple. Syracuse wins by 13. They were favored by 13.5, which is fun.
They fell down early, I think, to Army. Yeah.
Syracuse wins 29-16. Virginia Tech lost to Marshall. They were an underdog. I saw a lot of Virginia Tech folks on Twitter throughout the course of this game just groaning, not even tweeting details about the game. Beat writers, people who cover the team, and they kind of give you the TikTok of what's going on. Just groaning. Marshall wins 24-17. Did you watch the Friday night game at all?
After the fact, not live. I had a terrific Mexican food dinner while I actually watched the end of the game. You're talking about NC State, Virginia?
Yeah.
I watched the end of the game. I had dinner with our pal Ari Wasserman because he came into Chicago because he was going to South Bend. And so he wanted to watch the end of that game while we were eating enchiladas. And so he pulled out his phone and we watched it.
Yeah. NC State wins 24-21. Kevin Concepcion.
Yes.
Is a name.
Great name.
He is a name. I had a monster game out wide for NC State. Looks like he's going to be a dude. 6 for 116 and 2 touchdowns. Then our boy Anthony Calandria, or Calandria, I don't even know how you say his name. However you say it, provided they keep him upright and healthy, which is a big disclaimer with this line because the line's really bad. He's fun as hell, man. He is fun as he's not a big kid. He's a true freshman.
Right.
Our friend Bud Elliott, I know he tweeted out some of the stats that he saw, and it's like he is not afraid to throw it deep.
There are like
gunslinger.
5 quarterbacks this year that feel like a deconstructed Trace McSorley, where you're just like, yeah, I'm going to throw it deep. Why not? Whatever. Let's see what happens. Let's do something weird. Like Cam Ward at Wazoo. Obviously, like Drake May, very confident. That's a different level. But yeah, Calandry, all these guys, there's like Jalen Milroe trying to just make huge things happen at all times. There is that like Trace McSorley, like screw it. Let's do something weird and wild. I like that.
I should also mention that North Carolina, after going back and forth a little bit with Pitt, ends up winning 41-24. You pulled the stat on Drake May at one point. He was averaging something like over 20 yards of completion.
Yeah, it was 15 or 20 yards of complete, or it was 15 yards per attempt. I'm sure it was like 20 yards per completion. Yeah, I saw Pitt make plays. I think they were up early on in this game, but it was another pretty complete performance. And again, it's North Carolina keeping a team. You said the final score was what, 45-28?
41-24.
41-24. Keep a team under 25 points again? I know they gave up, I don't know what the final number was in the App State game that went to OT,
34.
but like,
34.
Yeah, that's good for North Carolina.
The North Carolina schedule is very appealing. I'm just going to call this out. They don't play Florida State. They do play Clemson on the road later in the year, but they go on bye this week. After the bye, listen to this stretch of games.
All right.
Home against Syracuse, home against Miami, home against UVA, on the road against Georgia Tech, home against, it says CAM, don't know who that is.
The Campbell Camels, I'm assuming.
Oh, the Campbell Fighting Camels. It is a camel. That's right. Okay. That's a win. Then they've got Duke, Clemson on the road, and NC State on the road. So truly,
all of these teams might be pretty good, especially Campbell. All of these teams might have catastrophically horrible weeks as well against North Carolina. Yeah. It's a terrific wild card of a schedule.
Total wild card. All right. Pac-12 time.
All right.
Save the best for last here. We talked about the Oregon game. A couple interesting matchups and some that are going on as we speak. Utah sits on UCLA. I think that's the right way to characterize this game.
I mean, when you score an offensive touchdown, and that's fine. That's plenty against UCLA today. Yeah, absolutely.
Utah beats UCLA 14-7. Again, it was Nate Johnson. It was not Cam Rising. The Cam Rising thing has been weird. The way it has been described through media reports is that he is practicing with the team. He feels he's ready to go. He's not going to play until he is officially cleared by his surgeon, a renowned surgeon out in LA.
Okay.
My understanding is that has not happened yet. Or it has happened and they are doing their best to use him only when they have to. They're trying to give it as much time as they possibly can. He did dress. He was there. So it seems as if he's making progress. He could have played if they needed him to. However, they didn't. They won. They remain unbeaten. And we go on to another week without Cam Rising.
At Oregon State in Corvallis next week, a bye, Cal at USC, Oregon.
We will see him eventually, but we have not seen him yet. My theory is, again, that they're just waiting until the very last minute. They don't want to use him before they absolutely have to. But this is a win. Dante Moore, what do we think about Dante Moore?
Well, he opened the game with a pick six.
Yeah, that was not great.
He struggled the Utah's defense mightily, and as did all UCLA's offense. And our friend Jeff Schwartz texted me this specifically after you took UCLA in Salt Lake, that the last 16 freshman quarterbacks to start, opposing road quarterbacks to start in Salt Lake City are a combined 3-13.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I should have heeded your warnings on that one. Washington State 38, Oregon State 35.
Yeah. Cam Ward bombing it down the field. Oregon State took a long time to get going in this game. I really like Oregon State's offensive line. We've talked about this before. They can run the ball, but I don't know if you saw, I don't have the name of the receiver at the tip of my tongue, but there was a play in which a Washington State receiver caught the ball downfield and broke 6 sure tackles from Oregon State secondary to score a touchdown. It was an incredible play. And really a great win for Wazoo. I think, how many yards did Cam Ward end up with?
404.
Yeah.
4 touchdowns. So Oregon State did their damnedest to try and come back, but they were down too much. 38-35.
Kyle Williams, Josh Kelly was the one. He had a crazy one-handed catch.
Oh, yeah.
If you haven't, go check that one out. That was great.
Bunch of great one-handed catches.
4-0 Wazoo with wins over Oregon State and Wisconsin. Quiet, very impressive September thus far.
Very quiet. Very quiet. We had Arizona by 1 over Stanford. Did not cover, but Jaden DeLara hurt his leg.
Noah Fafita, who was high school teammates in Southern California, a shorter quarterback with T-Mac, one of their star receivers. He led them down for a go-ahead touchdown in the fourth quarter, very impressively. And Arizona, look, wins are better than losses. What do we say? Win your clunkers. Arizona absolutely won its clunker against Stanford, who showed a good amount of fight in the parts of this game that I did watch.
And as we come on the air this evening, we have 2 of the Pac-12 games that we will go back into more detail and talk about on the Monday show, the Monday Burning Questions.
What are the scores as of this moment as Saturday turns to Sunday?
Washington got to 50 by the third quarter.
Yeah, they opened up, I think, with 2 non-offensive touchdowns. It might have been a pick six, something. It was 2 special teams and defense. Yeah.
It's preposterous. They're up 52-12 over Cal. On the flip side of things, speaking of clunkers, USC currently engaged in a dogfight with Arizona State.
I'm seeing this right now.
You've got to be kidding me.
Drew Pine has USC
freaking
experience.
Pine.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me with this?
24-21 with 9 minutes left in the third quarter is what I'm seeing.
You've got to be kidding me.
It looks like, it appears, and this was the case when I watched the first quarter of this game, Arizona State's just pushing USC around and running all over them. Cam Scatabo. Yeah, Scatabo. 6 yards per attempt. Kyson Brown, a couple carries for about 20 yards. Drew Pine has done nothing. Caleb Williams, I saw him throw a beautiful pass to Brendan Rice up the seam deep for it looks like a 40-yard touchdown. I don't know what's going on. It seems like USC's defense can't get off the field. I guess we'll see what happens.
Just brutality.
Yeah,
absolute brutality. That Arizona State's 5 of 10 on third downs.
Somebody drop in the live comments how exactly we got to this point where it's 24-21 USC in the second half.
Elsewhere around college football, I think we hit most of the Power 5 action.
Yes.
Just to take a spin through some of the other group of 5 games that I know people care about. We come on the air tonight. We've got another Keencast underway.
Oh, what's going on, Fresno?
Yeah, I mean, Fresno's playing Kent State, which might be the worst team in college football. But Mikey Keene, 325, 3 touchdowns, another banger of a game here on the Keencast. Logan Fife, now your boy, officially in the game. So Fresno's going to win that one going away. What else do we got here? Wyoming edged out App State 22-19.
Yeah, a back and forth fourth quarter, a fun one.
Another win for Texas State, GJ Kinney. This one over Nevada. Nevada's not very good, but 35-24. We had James Madison, the Dukes, going on the road, squaring off against Utah State, beating the Aggies 45-38. Needed to put up some points. We had Boise State winning 34-31 on Friday night. Air Force also winning 45-20 on Friday night. I will come back to these when we do Dude Alerts. I've got some names that I want to throw into that chorus. On the American side of things, I think we touched base. There were a lot of American teams playing others around college football. Tulsa won. South Florida beat Rice. An interesting matchup here. JT Daniels had 432 and 3 touchdowns in a losing effort. Rice at least puts up some yards and points. Tulane wins pretty big over Nichols. Not a big surprise there. And beyond that, the only other one that really jumped out to me is Georgia State knocking off Coastal Carolina. Georgia State now 4-0. Coastal Carolina dealing with Tim Beck as their coach and the offense, as it were. But yeah, I mean, you said it. You said it. I'm not going to play the sound again. We've already played too many sounds in this show. But Tim Beck calling offense is not necessarily a recipe for excitement.
So the Tulsa Northern Illinois game, I love this. It started out with 7 different drive outcomes. I'm not doing Dvorak for this, Ty. It started out with punt, turnover on downs, interception, missed field goal, fumble, safety, touchdown. 7 different drive outcomes to begin the game. I respect the madness of it all, Ty. Anybody else in the American that stood out? Anybody else in the Sun Belt? Anybody else?
Well,
USA. I think Jacksonville State's 3-1 with Rich Rod.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you want me to talk about this one, little backdoor cover for San Diego State. They scored with 42 seconds left. Ashton Ginty is the name for Boise, who was a bowling ball with eyes. If you watch this game back,
okay,
he is literally bouncing off guys for San Diego State. It was incredible. That one to me was just the only notable thing.
ODU beat Texas A&M Commerce 10-9, and people were sending us that for drive charts, but I have not taken.
Do you have a drive chart today for us?
No, I see, Ty. I don't want to give it every week because I want to make sure they're special, Ty. I really want to make sure they're special, which is why I did it for Alabama USF last week. Arkansas State won a college football game, which I think is notable.
They've been bad.
Yeah, they've been quite bad, but they beat Southern Miss 44-37. You mentioned Texas State. Buffalo's been very bad. They lost 45-38 Louisiana, quiet 3-1. Otherwise, not too much else. Do you want to do dudes? Do you want to get to any other game?
Let's do dude alerts.
Let's do it.
So my names here that I wanted to add in first. Kevin Concepcion, the wide receiver for NC State. Ashton Ginty, the name that I just threw out there. And I got to give one to Kyle McCord, man. Been a bit embattled here to start the season, but had a really big drive to keep his team undefeated in hostile territory. So shout out, credit where it's due.
This is who your submitted dude alert. Sometimes I like to turn it over to the Verballers. The Army quarterback who absolutely trucked Syracuse's safety. You mentioned DJ Giddens, Xavier Leggett, I think South Carolina. Yes.
Yep.
Kane Madrano. God, we got Ricky Pearsall with a stupid one-handed catch. I mean, in a very good way.
That was another one.
How about Rocco Becht, Cam Ward, Brian Ferentz? I mean, that's very
no, Brian Ferentz. Come on.
I know we're
sneak that one in there.
Bryce Kurtz catching, I think, 200 yards and that game winner. I believe he caught the game winner for Northwestern.
Brian Ferentz, get out of here.
Jatavian Sanders. Also, you had Troy Franklin for Oregon. There was and then the Josh Kelly one, just because it was a great day for one-handed catches. So those are your dudes for week 4.
DJ Giddens, by the way, you got to call out this line if you're going to give him a dude alert. 204, 4 touchdowns, also had 86 receiving yards. A monster game for K-State. So freaking good.
How does next week look? Have you taken a look? Have you peeked around the corner?
Yeah, I have. It is
Friday night. We got Utah-Oregon State.
We have Utah-Oregon State on Friday night. It is not as loaded a week as we saw this week, because this week I think was special.
Right.
There's going to be a lot of steam on USC Colorado.
Yeah, I think Big Ten announced that they're going. Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of steam on Notre Dame Duke. I think Florida Kentucky will be very interesting. I think Texas A&M Arkansas could be a good game.
It's always bonkers. That game is
always a bonkers game.
Completely bonkers. Continue.
Always bonkers. Clemson Syracuse that's in the Carrier Dome.
It's a letdown spot for Clemson going to the Carrier Dome. What is it still JMC? Is it
JMA?
JMA Wireless?
JMA. Right. There is a Georgia Auburn matchup that I think we thought more highly of before we saw Auburn this week. There is Michigan Nebraska, which I'm not as crazy about. The one that I think I am most interested in, perhaps outside of my own team, is going to be Texas against Kansas.
Yeah, that has promise.
That's got real shootout potential.
I'm even interested after this week in Iowa State, Oklahoma. There's baggage there with the Sooners losing to the Clones. And if Rocco Becht, Jalen Noel, if that's a real connection, you were saying there's yards to be had against this Oklahoma defense. How about that? Notre Dame Duke.
There is. And late night, don't want to get ahead of myself here.
Yeah.
Tucson's a weird place to play. Washington at Arizona, 10 p.m. kick.
Is it any sort of? It's definitely not going to be a letdown spot after this week. So it's ahead of a bye week. So it's an open-faced look ahead for Washington, ahead of a bye, ahead of Oregon. Okay.
So it's a good week. It's not quite as loaded as this one, but nonetheless, we will be very excited when we talk about it. Again, our preview is going to be live on YouTube next Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, I should say, at noon Eastern time. We do have a few other housekeeping things that we need to get to.
Okay.
You got people doing the chat here in YouTube. I want to send a shout out to a couple folks. But before we get there, 855 Verbal 3, we have reverbs every week. Our chief reverb engineer, Shay, was so kind as to put these together. Here's what we got.
You know, I know Dan Carlin's a big celebrity solid verbal listener. Sorry, Buffs. But I'm starting to think Jesse Palmer might be too. He keeps saying, Oregon's got all these dudes. Go Ducks, baby! Daniel, Tyler, Brandon in Colorado,
Patrick in Atlanta.
Hey, this is Wes from Massachusetts, calling from Rice Eccles after another classic Utah win. 4-0 without Cam Rising? God, we need him back badly. Oh, God.
Is it possible for Clemson to do a Clemsoning in overtime? Asking for a friend. I think I just saw one.
Clemson seriously pulled a Clemson. Wow.
Well, just when my Clemson Tigers were giving me hope, we prove once again this season that we're bad at winning. Overtime win versus Clemson. I feel like I just got 8 years of frustration off my back. Thank you, baby Jesus. Go Noles.
Iowa State with the win today. Do we need to start talking about a transfer of ownership from Brocktober to Rocktober? Go Clones.
Man, that Virginia game was a real gut punch. But damn, Anthony Collindre is so much fun to watch.
Dan and Ty, what does head coach Neil Brown say to the god of death? Not today. Go Ears.
Tough Saturday from the Auburn Tigers. Evan Stewart for A&M, that guy just cooking our DBs. Need to see more from the quarterback position. Need to see more from the offense, more energy, just really lethargic. Just ass-kicking from my Tigers today.
You are looking live as Washington State takes on Oregon State for the inaugural Pac-2 championship. Who am I kidding? Nobody cares.
Quick pulse check from Waco. Beep, 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 beep.
I just watched the Buckeyes pull out the thriller in South Bend. And even though I was just sitting on my couch, I feel like I might need an ice bath.
This is a message for Sam Hartman. Sorry, man, for what happened in that game tonight. It's a real tragedy. And I got to tell you, the Wake Forest Demon Deacons would be happy to have you back. Anytime, no questions asked.
Everyone likes to say that good teams win, but great teams cover. I don't give a shit about covering. I'm good with being good. Let's go! Buckeyes!
Who needs cocaine when you have college football? Arkansas LSU, Ohio State Notre Dame, what Oregon did to Colorado, what Washington's doing. My God, I'm exhausted.
Pete Golding couldn't keep Alabama's worst quarterback since Taylor Swift's debut album to less than 81% completions, 11 yards per attempt, and allowed a 177 passer rating. How do we let that one go? Roll Tide.
There we go. Those are your reverbs at 855 Verbal 3. Shout out again to Shay for putting those together. Does a marvelous job each and every week. He has promised an extended cut that we'll post out on verballers.com for those who are interested. We obviously can't fit all of those calls into one little 3-minute segment or so. I did want to give a shout out to some of the folks who are hanging out with us this evening. It's late in many parts of the country, mine and yours included, but it has been an eventful day in and around the world of college football. So thank you to everybody who is out there. We have a super chat that came through. That's a thing.
Yeah,
nice. From Andrew, who says that
Andrew.
Ryan Day's unnecessary intensity is only matched by the unnecessary amount of dye in his beard. Dan,
there was like a pinkish reddish glow to his face that I was like, oh man, something's off with like the color balance of this camera. But everything else in the frame was normal. So I don't know what was going on with Ryan Day. I noticed that at some point. But what a day! We have our We have our Verballer poll, right, for our Monday show. when people at verballers.com can vote on the official Solid Verbal Top 12.
Goes live tomorrow morning.
I might put Utah at number 1. The degree of difficulty with which they're playing and winning, I don't know. They're the most impressive team to me right now. That they're winning with like a patchwork Nick Johnson running the ball and Bryson Barnes. Like it's something different.
Send a shout out to some of the folks who have been watching diligently here. We, of course, have our friend Aaron. We have John. We have Michael. We have Ben, Roger, Adam, Eric Made of Tin, Patrick Fleming. I can't even scroll up any further than this. All sorts of folks chatting here. We appreciate you stopping on by. Don't forget to make sure you subscribe to the show, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you've already subscribed to the podcast, we'd encourage you to go on out to Apple or Spotify, really anywhere you can leave a rating or review. Leave it for us there. This is the time of year. This is actually the week when all sorts of new people are going to be on their phones, on their computers, typing in college football podcasts.
Nice.
And believe me, your reviews, your words of encouragement to potential verballers, all that stuff really does go a long way.
Yeah.
So you can
Even
help
if you
us
just
out.
want to write flirty things about Ty, do it.
No,
right there.
not tonight. I'm not in the mood tonight.
Do you feel like a sense of getting things off of your chest in a meaningful, like, do you feel any relief? Do you feel any?
I channeled it.
Looking for.
I channeled it through the Iowa rant.
Okay.
I felt like I got a little bit of an emotional release out of that.
Catharsis a little bit happening with you. Okay.
A little bit. Yeah. Like a little acupuncture just sort of got me in the right spot.
10 one of the better defensive efforts from only 10 players. Like he barely got in the end zone. Chip Trainum. They kept.
I don't want to do this show anymore. Okay, this already took a lot of me
How's
emotionally.
Mama H doing?
I haven't talked to her. I don't know. I haven't gotten a text.
She's not throwing rocks outside of your house at your window. Tyler!
I don't know what's happening. I've been totally removed. The game was over. I shut everything down. I haven't looked at my phone. I just started looking at scores, and people were saying, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." Stop telling me you're sorry. I don't care.
Okay.
I love you all. Thank you for your
the
concern.
best version of Ty.
I don't care if you're sorry that my team lost. It doesn't help me. It doesn't. It hurts. It just hurts. That's what this is.
Yeah. Good to know.
For that guy over there, my good friend, still my good friend, always my good friend, Dan Rubenstein. For myself, Ty Hildenbrandt. For the thousands of verballers listening at home, thank you for your support. Stay solid.
Peace.